If this doesn't get rectified in the very, very near future, within the next few weeks, our world, and when I say our world, I'm not just talking about where I live or where you live, but our world, our planet is going to be a different place. They will be sicker, they will be controlled, they will not have any privacy, they will not have any future. I want to make sure the world understands where the problem lies. This is misinformation to the highest order, and the reason for this misinformation is what's coming down. The danger is not what's in front of you. The danger is what you're being distracted from. The only way that you can control people is by keeping them in ignorance. The world needs to wake up and understand that what's happening right now is an illusion, and it's going to mandate other things coming down, which is include RF chips. Everybody's going to have mandated vaccinations so that they can track those people and know who's been vaccinated and who's not been vaccinated. Stanford came out with a study a couple of days ago. The Stanford study said this shows that the rate of death from COVID-19 is no different from influenza. That's what the study showed. Do you know what mainstream reported? That the study showed this is more rampant than anywhere else on the planet. It's more rampant than we thought. Well, of course it is. I think the entire population of the world's been exposed to it. But they didn't focus on that part of it. They just said, because the Stanford study said that we think it's much more widespread, but the death rate is no difference in flu. And in fact, that's based upon the data that they're giving, the data that's being reported for cause of death. But you know the memes right now. You fall out of a plane without a parachute, cause of death, COVID-19. You get shot in the head, COVID-19 killed you. You have a heart attack, COVID-19. They're putting the cause of death as COVID-19 for almost everything right now. And we've heard this type of information before. Some would call it conspiratorial, some would say it's rhetoric. But look, right now, you would have to be blind and deaf to not recognize that what is happening is not normal and is not justified. And because they can't justify the numbers, they're now manipulating the numbers. They're now adding numbers to it. In other words, the number of deaths weren't sufficient to justify this, so they're now having nurses and doctors change death certificates after the patients have died. The only way that you can control people is by keeping them in ignorance. But as soon as a person becomes empowered with knowledge, the one thing is that nobody can control you once you are aware. You cannot be victimized once you're aware and once you've been empowered with knowledge.
Well, folks, so the purge is most definitely on. Everything that Dr. Buttar has done, or Buttar has done just about, has been purged from YouTube. I'm actually surprised to find that little clip that I just played you still up there. But some of it is getting out. But the purge is definitely on, folks. They've purged 2 of my videos that I uploaded in the last week have been purged. And a whole bunch of stuff out of my favourites has been purged. Remember I said it's a good idea to go and check my favourites because you'll always find good stuff in there. A lot of that has been purged as well. And I'm also being blocked in some countries, and I'll insert a little reading here. I'll just read you a couple of letters that I got, because I got one that shows that I'm being blocked. Greetings from New Jerusalem. You must have really pissed off Do No Evil, as it is actively blocking downloads of all your latest videos to the extent of embedding app redirections in the popular Puffin browser so it will not play your videos directly. The few downloading apps left are being heavily attacked by InSoc, as it alters encryption keys to your videos. I mean, even David's videos are not being targeted like yours. Interesting letter to get, folks. Just to insert a little bit here, folks, sorry about the poncho, but it's cold this morning, but I've just found out that they have deactivated both of my Facebook pages this morning as well, pending me supplying them with a phone number, which I won't be doing. Although there is a friend of mine who said he does have a spare phone, and if I want to use a number to try to reactivate them, he will give me that number to do it. So there's a chance I may do that just to see if it works. But otherwise, I will probably be gone from Facebook. So I've been able to access my MeWe account again. So if you would like to contact me in a Facebook type environment, please go and sign up to MeWe. There'll be a link below. And we've been expecting this coming, folks, so it looks like you will no longer find me on Facebook. I believe they've deactivated David Icke's page as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if my YouTube channel is next. So if that does happen, folks, you'll have to find me on BitChute, look for me on Library, look for me on MeWe, look for me on Steemit. There's other places like Minds, but we'll just see what happens, folks. There'll be ways you can find my stuff, and I'll stay on YouTube as long as I can. We'll just play it by ear from this point forward. But things are getting very weird.
And I've got another one to confirm the fact that they're shutting down the food, folks, and they're doing it deliberately.
Hey everybody, this is Shad Sullivan coming to you from the headwaters of Bitter Creek, Archer County, North Texas. We have to talk. State officials will be assisting to help identify potential alternative markets if a producer is unable to move animals, and if necessary, advise and assist on depopulation and disposal methods. Ladies and gentlemen, we are plowing under vegetable crops from coast to coast. We are euthanizing millions of chickens. We are aborting sows and burying feeder pigs. We are dumping milk by the hundreds of thousands of gallons, and now they are preparing us to depopulate the fat cattle ready to harvest because of a bottleneck created by the effects of COVID. This thing hasn't been created by COVID, but the effects of COVID and the logistics therein. We are in trouble. Our food supply is in trouble, and I am appealing to producers and consumers across the nation to start calling. Yesterday, the first shipment of imported beef from the country of Namibia hit the shores of the United States of America. And yet this morning, they are telling us to prepare to euthanize harvest-ready cattle. Am I the only one that sees a problem in this? It is time we get the American people back to work. It is time we get money flowing. It is time we get food on the shelves. Because if you're not concerned about this food supply problem, you better be.
They're saying they're going to ease the lockdown here in Queensland this weekend, apparently, from midnight Friday or midnight Sunday or midnight Saturday, midnight sometime soon. They're going to ease the lockdown. People can go to parks like I'm doing now, and they can go to the beach, they can go out in their boats, they can have picnics and all that sort of stuff, as long as they adhere to strict social distancing guidelines and stay within 50 kilometres of their homes. I didn't know you were supposed to stay within 50 kilometres of your home. I've been out and about all over the place. But what they're going to do, folks, there's going to be a second wave of this pandemic. And as I said a couple of reports ago, I mean, it's hard to know whether they're still there with all the stuff that's being deleted. But I did mention a couple of reports ago that when they ease the lockdown, that's when we'll see the real pandemic break out. You know, they've knocked everybody's immune systems down with this keeping them locked away, keeping them indoors, because that's what it does, folks. You know, you're supposed to be out in the world collecting germs. I mean, this is the way we work. This is the way our bodies work. That's the way our immune systems function. You know, you go out in the world and you collect all these bacteria and these everyday viruses. You pick them up every day. And this keeps your immune system functioning. You know, we're supposed to be out in places like this. You know, we're supposed to be interacting with people. But by keeping people home, keeping them washing their benches all the time, keeping them all worried about germs, and keeping them wearing masks as well, they're actually destroying people's immune systems. You know, the wearing of masks is very, very insidious, folks. You know, the fact that they're getting people to do this, this is very, very bad. I mean, it's very insidious, and not only are they stopping people from smiling at each other and talking with each other and communicating with each other in any real way. They're also making people sick. You know, when you wear surgical masks, and that's what these things are, the masks, these little blue and white masks that people are wearing that they're selling in shops, these are surgical masks. When you wear these masks, doctors wear them in surgery in order to prevent spit falling into the people that they're operating on. You know, when we talk, when we breathe, when we just lick our lips, tiny, tiny microscopic droplets of spit come out of our mouth, and this happens all day. We normally just expel this into the air, it falls down, no problem. If you're operating, it may fall into a patient, that is a problem. But when you're wearing a mask all day, one of these surgical masks, every time you lick your lips or open your mouth to breathe or say something to someone, you're releasing tiny little droplets of spit into the mask. And rather than expelling them into the air, they're being stored there in the mask and you're breathing through them all day. You're breathing this stuff back in. This is very bad for you, folks. This is very, very bad for you. So by wearing these masks, you're actually making yourself sick. That's what they're doing, folks, and they're doing it on purpose.
When a surgeon wears a mask, and when a nurse wears a mask with a critical patient, we're not wearing that mask to protect ourselves. When you're doing open heart surgery, you're replacing a knee, or you're doing some kind of hernia repair, you're wearing the mask so you don't drool, you don't spit, you don't cough, you don't sneeze into that open surgical field. So because you're keeping it sterile. All right. Now we come to the United States and we come to the current issue. Everything is misinformation. All right. We know that stress increases the cortisol, which is the stress hormone, which decreases the immune system. So when you scare people, tell them to stay home, you suppress their immune system because you're scaring them. You further suppress them because economic issues, they're stressed out. Now you tell them wear a face mask. What are you doing when you're wearing a face mask? A face mask reduces the amount of oxygen coming in. So now your body's in a chronic state of stress. And that face mask is obstructing airway. They're pushing this agenda, and it's an agenda to make people weaker, to make them more susceptible. The face mask then also prevents when your body's being stressed out and you're not getting enough oxygen, it then creates other issues. You remember they said don't touch your face and don't okay, well, if you're sweating and you've got face masks, don't you think people are going to be pushing it around? On top of that, when you have this release of viruses, because viruses live inside our cells, when I say live, they're not living, but when they're released and you're wearing a face mask, you're preventing the ability to, you're actually stressing the body out and increasing the viral activation, if you will. All right, so you're actually increasing the susceptibility of the individual stress-wise and increasing the viral load. So tell me, if they really want to help people, why are they telling people that they should be wearing masks? It's completely preposterous. The world needs to wake up and understand that what's happening right now is an illusion, and it's going to mandate other things coming down, which is include RF chips.
Announcement from the WA Police Force. We would like to remind everyone in the surrounding area to ensure they are social distancing. Social distancing is critical to help limit the risk of COVID-19 spreading around the community. Please ensure you are 1.5 metres away from others. Thank you. Your actions are saving lives. For further information around social distancing, please visit www.wa.gov.au.
Now, they've got people locked away and they've got them ready for the real pandemic, and they're creating a situation where the real pandemic will break out, and then they will blame you for it. They'll blame everybody for not abiding by the lockdown. They'll say they didn't lock you down enough, and so we have to increase the lockdown, and we have to increase the surveillance, and we have to bring in testing for everyone just to prevent any type of further outbreak.
But just reference to your earlier conversation about lifting the lockdown, we know that we haven't infected enough of the population with this virus. So for any lifting of any lockdown to be successful, we need not only to be able to test healthcare workers, but also to track and trace patients or people, not just patients in hospital, but people outside of hospital or people that are coming into hospital for various other reasons.
And the testing methods, folks, As has been very well uncovered by Dr. Kaufman, what they're using to identify as COVID-19 is in fact exosomes that are found in your body quite naturally. Anybody who's in a state of stress is going to find that these exosomes are in their body. If they've got people locked down telling them there's a pandemic coming, then what sort of a state do you think people are going to be in, folks? They're going to be in a state of stress. So anybody that they want to test positive for COVID-19, they can quite easily test positive. And if they want to remove you from your home...
In response to the spread of this virus, authorities may have to enter people's homes and remove family members, presumably by force.
In most parts of the world, due to lockdown, most of the transmission that's actually happening in many countries now is happening in the household, at family level. In some senses, transmission has been taken off the streets and pushed back into family units. Now we need to go and look in families to find those people who may be sick and remove them and isolate them in a safe and dignified manner.
Now, if you haven't got a vaccination, if they've got all this stuff in place and people are asking for vaccination certificates before you can walk into a shop and you say, well, I don't agree with all this stuff, they can just come along and say, well, you're being a danger to society, and if you're not adhering by all the things that we're saying you should do, perhaps you're infected. They can just give you a test and say, well, yes, you are infected. And then they can put you in a hospital and say, oh, he tested positive for COVID-19 and then he died. Now, we took him to hospital and he died after testing positive for COVID-19, because that's always the wording. Now, someone with COVID-19 died today. They didn't die from COVID-19, but they tested positive for it. They're actually testing people after they die to see if there's any trace of COVID-19 in their body, and if there is, they're changing the death certificates to push the death rates up. And, you know, and they're virtually murdering people in hospitals, folks. They're killing people because they're assuming anybody who goes in there has got COVID-19, and so they're giving them COVID-19 treatment, which is to put them on a ventilator, because they get $13,000 if someone's declared to have COVID-19, and they get $39,000 if they put them on a ventilator. So that's what they're doing. So basically anybody that goes to hospital for anything, as Dr. Buttar was saying in that intro, doesn't matter what they go in there for. You know, they'll just test them. They'll find these exosomes in their body, so they'll say, oh, COVID-19. They'll put them in an isolation ward, or they'll put them on a ventilator, which means they'll kill them. Doesn't matter what you go in there and what you're dying of. You're going to put it down as a COVID-19 death.
The rate of death from COVID-19 is no different from influenza. That's what the study showed. Death rate is no difference in flu. And in fact, that's based upon the data that they're giving, the data that's being reported for cause of death. But you know the memes right now. You fall out of a plane without a parachute, cause of death, COVID-19. You get shot in the head, COVID-19 killed you. You have a heart attack, COVID-19. They're putting the cause of death as COVID-19 for almost everything right now.
And then when the second wave comes, which is coming, you know, if not from just the fact that everyone's been in lockdown and destroying their immune systems, but also due to the fact that they're wiping out the food chain. You know, as I've been saying for weeks upon weeks, the supply chains are breaking down, and that is the big thing that people just aren't noticing. That is the thing that people should be looking at, and most of this other stuff is keeping people distracted from that incredibly real and frightening truth. Because it is a real truth, folks, and it is quite frightening. It's frightening because, you know, there's going to be a lot of people suffer through this. And that's just the way it is, folks. You know, it's hard to tell people because they're purging everything. You know, like I've said, they've purged so many of my favourites. They've purged at least 2 of my videos that I uploaded in the last week. They're bringing out a new law in England to say, you know, to combat misinformation about the coronavirus, to make it illegal to spread misinformation about COVID-19. You know, if that's a true law, then all the government and the media should be arrested straight away, because they're the ones that have been spreading all the misinformation. Funny how they work that, you know, they call anything that doesn't support the official hoax narrative of being misinformation. But all they sell people is misinformation, folks. That's all they sell people. You know, and the breaking down of the supply chain, the wearing of all these masks, all the stuff that they're doing to people, you know, this is going to end up having devastating results. It's going to end up having devastating results, folks. So what action can we take? I mean, that's the question, isn't it? What's the action in the face of all this? Look out, COVID, folks, and COVID-19. Well, you know, spreading information is one of the best things you can do. It's so important that people find out what's going on, because it's only if people find out what's going on that we're going to be able to get these supply chains running again. That's the important thing. You know, the reason they deleted those videos I had, the last couple of videos, or two of my recent videos anyway, I'm pretty sure the reason they deleted them was because of the talk by Dr. Erickson, which has been absolutely expunged from the internet. I mean, they just don't want people knowing this stuff. This is a nice tree. I don't know what any of these trees are, but they're nice. It's nice to be able to show you some of this stuff. But they don't want people knowing what he said. I mean, Dr. Erickson was basically saying that, you know, what I was saying before, that by hiding yourself away and wearing masks and washing your benches all the time, you're missing out on basic biology, basic microbiology, and, you know, you're actually lowering your immune system by doing all of this stuff. They don't want people knowing that. And they don't want you to hear Como. I don't know whether he's the mayor or the governor or whatever of New York. I don't know what his role is. I'm not a New Yorkian, I'm not an American. But they don't want you to hear what he said by the fact that this is all voluntary, and that if everybody just wanted to go outside, they don't have the resources to stop them. There would be nothing at all that they could do to stop people if they wanted to go outside. I'll play them for you again. I'll play those two little bits again. They might delete this video again, but, you know, I'll play it anyway. Actually, I'll play some acoustic guitar, and I'll put some acoustic guitar under their dialogue. Maybe the algorithms won't pick that up, because I'm pretty sure it's not all people that are looking at all this stuff. I think that it's also algorithms that are doing this. They're looking for certain words, and if certain phrases are said, then those videos just get automatically deleted. That's why people aren't saying certain words like the cinco g word. They're not saying that, a lot of people. Yeah, they don't talk about the other word, the J word. They just say, you know, men with small hats. Well, that's what I've been saying anyway. So there's certain things we have to do now to get things across. But what I'll do is I'll play these two clips for you again, and I'll put them in little small boxes up in the screen and run some weird graphics on the main screen, so maybe the algorithms won't pick up on their faces, and maybe if I put the guitar underneath them, perhaps it won't pick up on the dialogue that easily either. And I won't use anybody else's music because it might interfere with their copyright laws.
I'd like to go over some basic things about how the immune system functions. The immune system is built by exposure to antigens, viruses, bacteria. When you're a little child crawling on the ground, putting stuff in your mouth, viruses and bacteria come in, you form an antigen-antibody complex, you form IgG, IgM. This is how your immune system is built. You don't take a small child, put them in bubble wrap in a room and say, go have a healthy immune system. This is immunology, microbiology 101. This is not something, this is the basis of what we've known for years. What I'm seeing is when you take human beings and you say, go into your house, clean all your counters, Lysol them down, you're going to kill 99% of viruses and bacteria, wear a mask, don't go outside. What does that do to our immune system? Our immune system is used to touching. We share bacteria, staphylococcal, streptococcal bacteria, viruses. We develop an immune response daily to this stuff. When you take that away from me, my immune system drops. As I shelter in place, my immune system drops. You keep me there for months, it drops more. And now I'm at home, hand washing vigorously, washing the counters, worried about things that are indeed what I need to survive. Let's follow the science. This is common sense immunology.
Everything we're doing is basically voluntary on behalf of people, right? State government, local government, federal government doesn't have the power to enforce stay-at-home orders. If 19 million people said, I'm going out today, they would go out.
And perhaps I can get that up there and have it stay there for a little while. If it doesn't work and they delete this video, then the 2 videos that they have deleted that dialogue is in can be found. I'll put the links down for you below. They can be found on BitChute still. There's one that's still processing on BitChute. BitChute is very slow on the processing these days. I think a lot of people are uploading to it. But they can both be found on Library anyway. And I'll put a link below to my Library channel. That's LBRY. That's another platform you'll find me on, even if you can't get to BitChute, because the stuff on Library can't be taken down. It's on a blockchain, so it's going to always be there. Okay, that's 2 cops. It's definitely COVID, folks. I think I'm dying. I may have to call an ambulance to get me out of the park. You never know, folks. Or it could be bad. One of the neighbours could hear me coughing and think that I'm an infected person, and they need to call the guys in the hazmat suits. That's kind of what it's going to anyway. But I think we're heading for a pretty bad place, folks, and people aren't going to believe just how crazy it's going to get. People will not be able to comprehend the level of crazy that we're going to move into. Now, what we're moving into, folks, it's like a cross between the Hunger Games and Mad Max. Only if you could imagine the cities in the Hunger Games to be like just high-tech nightmares, like what I showed you is going on in Japan or in China. I kept saying Japan the other clip as well, and I mean China. The system they've got in place for education in China, what they're doing to the kids there, it's absolutely grotesque what they're doing to these
facial
kids.
recognition cameras that are able to instantly put a face to a name. Now the Chinese are also ranked.
红色是表示你的专注力显示得很高。
Teachers at this primary school in China
蓝色是走神了。
know exactly when someone isn't paying attention.
白色就是你可能跟网络还没有连接好。
These headbands measure each student's level of concentration. The information is then directly sent to the teacher's computer and to parents. Classrooms have robots that analyze students' health and engagement levels. Students wear uniforms with chips that track their locations. A cashless economy where people make purchases with their faces. A giant network of surveillance cameras with facial recognition helps police monitor citizens.
So that's what you're going to get in the smart city, and even the comments of the people that live in that society are saying this is worse than being in a prison. And it will be worse than being in any prison when every single move you make is monitored, every single transaction you make is monitored. You've got to buy things with your face. Imagine going in and buying some weed from a weed store and you've got to make the purchase with your face. It's all digital, no cash. All the stuff. If they manage to remove cash from our society, folks, then we're going to be screwed. But that's what they want to do here. That's what we're going to have. You have a Hunger Games type society where you've got these smart city areas, and you won't be allowed into them because you haven't had a vaccine. And if you do go into them, the people within there will hate you. They'll see you as infected. And if the authorities get hold of you, all they have to do is say, well, because you haven't been following our health guidelines, we're assuming you must be a carrier, so we're going to test you. And if you're stressed at all, then you're going to have exosomes active in your body. They'll take you away. If you're using a cell phone at the whole time when you're doing this, then they'll be able to locate everybody you've been in contact with. They'll be able to locate your entire chain of friends, and they'll be able to make all of them disappear as well. I mean, this is a nightmare reality, folks, but that's what it'll be like in the smart cities. For the rest of the people, millions upon millions of them, they won't get through this. People just won't get through it. The people in the cities are going to become a death zone. They really are, because when the food runs out, I wouldn't want to be in a big city. I wouldn't want to be in LA or New York or any of those places. I really wouldn't. Even here in Australia, I wouldn't want to be in a big city. We have a little bit more of a chance here in Australia, but America is really, really being set up for a fall through all this. And it's going to be a sad thing to see if they manage to pull it off. It really is. Now, some of the actions that you should be taking. You should be looking at, well, food, definitely food. If you're in Australia, I mean, I'd be looking at the, there's a whole bunch of books you can get on bush tucker. Now, this sort of a environment, there's so many things in the Australian bush that are edible. There's so many ways to survive if you know your way around the bush. And it's probably the same in the United States, but they've decimated so much of it is the problem. You know, there's not a lot of wild lands left in the United States. There's still a few wild lands here in Australia on the east coast, but a lot of it was burnt out. And looking at this now, seeing what they've done now, it makes perfect sense why they had the fires, at the start of the year, end of last year, because they removed all the places where we could go foraging, where we could go hunting. They killed so much of the wildlife, so many kangaroos, so much of the bush tucker that's out there. And you look at that, you look at this whole Plandemic, it seems pretty obvious why all that was done now. Now, when I come and do these talks, there's always so much I want to say. There's so much going on. By the way, like I said, they're thinking of easing the lockdown here a little bit in Queensland. I don't know what's going on with the other states. And the current death rate here in Australia, by the way, folks, is 95. 95 people they are claiming died from this terrible Plandemic. And, of course, no one's dying from anything else. So basically we've just had 95 people die, and they've died with COVID-19 in their body, but nowhere has it been said that they died of COVID-19. Again, it's all in the wording, but they're really, really doing a number on the United States. I mean, flooding the economy the way Trump has done. Think about it, what was it, 4.2 trillion? I heard it was 3 trillion that he put into the economy, and then I heard that it was 4.2 trillion that he put into the economy. I mean, if that's true, I mean, the whole US economy, I think, was around about 3 trillion. If Trump's just pumped in more money than the entire US economy, and he's inspired everybody to stay home on welfare as well, no one's out there moving the food. And if he's flooded the US economy with that much fiat currency, you're heading for Zimbabwe-style hyperinflation. And with what they've done with oil, I mean, oil is minus $45 a barrel at the moment. And that's going to destroy the petrodollar. People might think that's a good thing. It is in a way, but not this way. Not this way. Because what will happen is the oil will stop flowing. And then you won't have any gas to put in your car. And then they can bring in their electric driverless cars, which is what they want to do. And they're fast-tracking driverless cars in California right now due to COVID-19. The need that COVID-19 has created. I mean, they're so full of shit, folks, and they're so predictable. That's what's happening, Like, people are literally, in the Middle East, the oil barrels are building up so much they've got nowhere to put them. They're having to store oil in tankers, and they've got nowhere to ship the tankers to because no one's buying any oil because all of the world trade has been shut down. And there's still people who think Trump is their friend and Q is going to come and save them. I said back in the first film that I released in 2008, the World War III has already started. World War III is a war that the government is waging against the people of the world. It's just that the people of the world don't know that it's going on. All of the measures that these governments have put in place to allegedly protect you from COVID-19 are measures that are killing you. They've locked you away from people, so you can't talk about it. They've locked you away from the basic necessities of life: sunshine, good food, the company of others. Not allowing you to touch people. Even when you go outside, they're telling you shouldn't touch people. And while they're doing that,
they have closed the cruise ships. They have closed the schools. They have closed the high schools. They've closed the colleges. They've closed the universities. They've closed the churches. They're closing casinos. They're closing hotels. They've closed government buildings. And they're forcing you all to stay inside because they are reinstalling the microwave and millimeter wave electromagnetic weaponry right now as you're focused on toilet paper and watching people walking around with masks on the screens. Those white vans are going into all these buildings and changing out the chips and making sure that the new Wi-Fi systems have the weaponized frequencies in them. That's right, folks. They're going to go to 6 gigahertz, which is the absorption spectrum of iodine, and 60 gigahertz, which is the absorption spectrum of oxygen. They are retooling the electromagnetic weaponry that is installed everywhere all over the world right now. All right? There is no coronavirus, folks. This is a psychological warfare hoax to get you locked down so they can lock down all the public places and put the weaponry in. That's what they're doing. Everything is off limits because what they're doing right now is they're either upgrading what's in there or testing what's in there remotely. All of these access points and these Wi-Fi systems all over the world are made by a handful of companies, and the specifications for these products in their product guides are only as good as the paper it's written on.
They're rolling out this whole 5G radiation system, and they're deliberately destroying the food supply. Thousands upon thousands of potatoes, thousands upon thousands of pounds of so much food, vegetables just being ploughed into the ground. Meatworks being closed down. As I was talking a couple of shows ago, Tyson's Meatworks. Tyson's Foods, one of the biggest food processors in the United States, shut down due to COVID-19. The biggest meatworks in Canada shut down due to COVID-19. And so many countries are taking advantage of this. But the real pandemic is yet to come. Bill Gates will try to present it as some type of a bioweapon. But it won't be a bioweapon. It'll just be the fact that everybody's immune systems are lowered, and the real pandemic that's happening here, folks, that's causing all of this to happen, is fear. Now, fear is a disease. Fear is a disease. Do not bring it into my home, unless others become infected. It really is a disease, folks. Fear will produce exosomes in your body. It will stress your body out. It will weaken you in every way you can think of. And when you're in fear of touching other people, in fear of going outside, in fear of even breathing the air around you so that you must wear a mask, this in itself is making you sick. And when the food runs out, they'll blame COVID-19. When millions of people start dying, they'll blame the terrible coronavirus for breaking down the food chain when they've done it deliberately. This whole thing has been done so deliberately and so well orchestrated. And when that happens and the food runs off the shelves, a lot of people will turn to the government to help them. Please save us from this terrible pandemic that was brought about by this terrible, mysterious, invisible enemy, this terrible virus that came from nowhere and decimated our lives. That's the way they'll present it, folks. Then they'll present you with the solution. Those people who are left, the solution, of course, will be to eat their new food made from pulverized insects, flavored with their food flavorings and food colorings. 100 grams of protein a day to keep you alive. But of course, you've got to take your vaccination in order to receive your Soylent Green. That's the way they want it, folks. And that's, like I said, for those who live within the smart cities. For those out in the Badlands, which is what it'll be, the Badlands, you simply won't be allowed into these zones. You won't be allowed into a supermarket. You won't be allowed any of the, access to any of society at all without complying. And that will be just like Mad Max world out there. And they can get you with the weather, they can get you with bushfires, they can get you with all sorts of stuff, folks, the way they do. The way they always do. Like I was saying, there's a lot of books on bush tucker, wild tucker, how to survive in the wild. There's actually a friend of mine called Stefan Verstappen. If you go to his site and you subscribe to his site, you can get access to what he calls a survival drive. In that survival drive, you will find pretty well everything you need to be able to build yourself shelters in the wild, to be able to just butt out if you want. Just completely drop out of society altogether and survive in the wild by your own wits and by your own skills. And with what's coming, folks, we can wake people up as much as we can. And, a lot of us have been trying. I've certainly been trying. A lot of people have been trying. All of us have been trying to do this. But the fact is that not everyone is going to wake up. And that's just a simple reality. If they haven't woken up now, they're not going to wake up. A lot of them. Some of them will when it gets, too bad for them to be able to deny it anymore. But now we're at the point where people really do have to look after themselves. Sorry about the light here, folks. I'm just kind of wandering around in the forest here. But people are really going to have to start looking out for themselves. I meet a lot of kids that know what's going on. I've got a lot of young friends. I've got friends that are, some of them are teenagers. I think I'm pretty cool for an old guy, So I have people of all ages hanging around. And I was even at a friend's place today, and she's got some young kids that look like they're about, 8 to 12. And they know that this is completely fake. They're aware, they're happy that they're having time off school, but they miss their friends. But they know that it's all fake. I said to them, I hope you're not scared of the virus, the pandemic. And they said, no, we don't think it's real. So that's 8 to 12-year-old kids. So, a lot of people get it. But people have to move into action. People have to go out and start getting these supply chains running again. It's not just a matter of going back to work. It's a matter of getting the food back on the tables. We've got food banks in LA and all over the place that are demanding food. And there's farmers that are ploughing food back into the ground because they can't get it to market due to this COVID crisis. And all of this is being done by design, folks. Like I said, we're at war, and the war's being waged against the people, and they don't know it. The reality is that the government doesn't care about you. The government wants you dead. And the people who control this world believe they should be the rulers of this world, and there should only be 500 million other people who all should serve them. And we all should be androgynous and stay at home with our sex robots and all of this sort of stuff, They don't want us breeding. If they want more workers, they'll simply breed them themselves in their embryonic chambers and create their synthetic sperm out of stem cells and all the stuff they're doing. They want us all merged together as one race so they can just sit at the top and be the kings of the world. And have everybody here enslaved to paper and enslaved to fear and never knowing who and what they are. And if we don't nip this in the bud and we allow this new normal to be created.
A new normal.
A new normal.
New normal.
A new normal.
The new norm.
A new normal.
Then the kids that grow up into it are going to have no reference point at all for what freedom looks like, folks. They're going to have no reference point for what it means to be free. They're going to have no reference point for what it means to be a real human being. Because all of that's being removed from us. They'll be in their little bubbles, living in their little plastic worlds. All their contact will be on the TV screen. They can contact people and talk to other people, or talk to their avatars. People can be whatever they want. Maybe they'll end up in a situation where they've got robots and we're actually driving them around, and that's how we're interacting, because we're too scared to interact with each other. Like that movie, what was it called? Surrogates, I think. It was Bruce Willis. Where they had people driving these robots around. They were just lying in these chambers all day. We have a reality like that. You have your sex robots and no humanity left at all. And all the kids will be monitored at school. You know, and it isn't just about the United States wanting to beat the AI, beat Chinese at controlling AI, so Chinese aren't the ones who rule the world. It's more than that, folks. That's what they want you to think is going on. You know, and God bless Whitney Webb, she does great research, but she's still looking at it from a political perspective, because she still thinks political parties are real. She still thinks there's a difference between the US government and the Chinese government and the Korean government, and there's actually, you know, people who want to come out on top and other people who are enemies. The fact is that they all work together. Sure, they want to be the one to race to the top to get there first, probably a bit like a competition for them. But ultimately, they're all working together, and the ultimate goal is to remove the world of at least 3/4 of the population that is here now. And their preferred method of doing this has always been starvation. So people need to wake up to what's coming, folks. They need to wake up. And I can keep saying that, and I can keep pushing. And someone asked me the other day, well, we need someone to step up as a leader, you know. Would you be prepared to take that role, Max? You know, but the fact is that I can't lead you. If you can't lead yourself, then it's already lost. Now, you've got to be able to lead things in your own community. That's one of the programs they put into people with all of these hero action movies, is there's always the one. Neo is always going to come and save the day, or Superman, or Batman. There's always a singular hero. Look at all of these films. Look at V for Vendetta, there was a singular hero. You know, sure, you need someone to motivate the crowd, but there's a lot of us out here doing that, hopefully motivating the crowd. There's a lot of people that are bringing you the truth about what's going on. You know, Dan Dix is doing great in Canada. Jeff Berwick's doing great in Mexico. Brian from HighImpactVlogs is doing great as well in the United States. I'm doing what I can from here. There's people in England that are doing it as well. You know, a lot of people are speaking out, folks. There's a lot of people that are calling out the cry. But people have to get motivated in their own community to do it. It's the belief that we need a singular leader to lead us. We need one hero figure. This is a program. And be your own hero, folks, in your own community. And if the community won't wake up, then look after yourself. Sorry about the plane. And look after yourself. Learn what the edible food is and just see what's coming so you can get yourself and your family into a safe position. Because like I said, folks, people would not believe just how weird this is going to get. This is going to be like nothing we've ever seen. This is going to be the biggest reset we've seen in a long time. All those people who wanted to see the reset, folks, well, here it is. You're going to live through it. Maybe you won't live through it. A lot of people won't live through it. But, well, you're definitely here for it. So, yeah. I don't quite know what else to say, folks. You know, like I said, I come out to do these and I always have so much that I want to say. But I forget so much of it when I get here. But yeah, interesting times, ladies and gentlemen, really, really interesting times. You know, I used to come on and do such happy reports and really try to inspire people. I am still trying to inspire people, but through it all, I think it's really important to be realistic about what's coming. Yeah, we have a matter of weeks, not months, a matter of weeks before I think we reach a total collapse of this system. We have a matter of months before we're going to see some pretty serious food shortages set in. Not to encourage panic buying, but get out of town if you can. Get to somewhere in the country, get as much food growing as you can. Get as much stored as you can as well. And don't depend on anybody but yourself through this. You know, even with exposing all the information that we're doing, I mean, if people are just purging, I mean, if YouTube's going to purge it, it's all very well, we go over to BitChute, we go over to the library, sure, we'll still be able to have some sort of an underground resistance going on as long as they keep the internet up. And I'm still fully expecting them to close that down at some stage, for whatever reason they could cook up. Just for a little while. But you know, sorry about the light, folks. I keep messing up this light with the way I'm walking. But sure, we'll be able to keep in contact with each other on those platforms. You know, the reason I stay with YouTube is because that's where the audience is. They're where the people, that's where the people are that we want to wake up. Because, you know, like I said, a lot of people are going to find themselves between a rock and a hard place with what's coming. But through it all, folks, look after yourselves. More than anything, right now, look after yourself. Look after your family. Get some food growing. Get some books on wild food. Bush tucker, if you live in Australia, there's a few bush tucker books. I'll try to find a couple of them and put them up on the screen for you. Because there is a lot of wild food you can eat, stuff you wouldn't even expect was edible, is edible. And the rainforests around here, I mean, if you can slip into the forest, you'll find you can pretty likely survive if you've got a few bush skills, if you know how to build yourself a shelter, you know how to collect some wild food. There is, you know, a reasonable amount of food around that you can get without even having to kill anything. So a lot of stuff is edible, a lot of stuff in trees, a lot of roots, berries, stuff that grows in the forest. So you'd be surprised. I really recommend people start looking into all this stuff, folks, because I'm not kidding. We're heading for a pretty twisted sort of a future. Like I said, people simply are going to be surprised about how strange and crazy things are actually going to get. And it's getting harder and harder to get information out to people, simply because they're purging so much of it. Because they're purging all my videos, purging so many videos, even blocking me from browsers like that note that I read you before with the Puffin browser. Whatever the Puffin browser is. I've never heard of the Puffin browser. But yeah, I'll bring you some more reports very soon, folks. I'll bring you another one in the next day or two. I want to do a music track. 2 or 3 minute music track in the next day or two I want to get uploaded, just as a tribute to a few people and maybe to inspire others as well. And for all the wonderful compliments I get on the intro and the intro music, well, I think you'll like the track that I'm going to upload. But I'll try to get that done in the next couple of days as well. Maybe even today, you never know. Might even work on it tonight or tomorrow before I do the next walking tour. Thank you to all the people who send me so much information. The emails just haven't stopped, and I'm sorry to all the people I haven't responded to on Facebook. I really want to try to spend a day just sitting there answering Facebook messages one day soon. I've got so many, it's ridiculous. And if someone would like to be a moderator on my page on Facebook, just called The Crow House, could you please email me? Because apparently there's a lot of trolls getting onto that page, because I just kind of approve everybody who requests it, and I'm not there to moderate the page. The guy who opened it, I'm not sure what's happened to him. I can't remember who did open that page, and they made me a moderator. And if someone would like to mod that page for me, that would be great if you could email me about that. And yeah, thank you for all the messages. Thank you to all my Patreon supporters, and I'll bring you another message in the next couple of days. And look out for this music track that I'm going to upload in the next day or so. And I'll speak to you again soon. Please take very good care until then, folks. In Lakesh.